Today on Focus on Sports, we take a look at the action at Valley Children's Stadium at the Spring Preview.
Also, a team adds to the trophy collection after a thrilling overtime victory.
Plus, some gridiron dogs now have a home in the NFL. Your Focus on Sports starts now.
What's up, brother? To your Focus on Sports, I'm Ricky Oakes.
I'm Al Scott.
And I'm Jackson Sanchez. First things first, Fresno State softball is headed to the Mountain West Conference playoffs. They got it done with a 5-2 win over the Colorado State Rams on Saturday with production from Kaylee Lee Madison. The outfielder went 2 for 2 with a walk and an RBI double. Sophomore Emma Martinez extended her hit streak to 6 games with a 2-run single in the 5th inning. The Mountain West Conference Championship will take place at Boise, Idaho on May 9th through the 11th.
Spring ball is now in session. The Fresno State football team took to the field in front of the fans for the first time this year during Saturday's preview day scrimmage. The team has 11 new additions to its roster as it prepares for the 2024 season, including former USC defensive lineman Corey Foreman. Fresno State will be heading into the next season with 14 of its last season starters. The Bulldogs displayed solid offensive possession in front of the Red Wave as the scrimmage saw 0 turnovers. Head coach Jeff Tedford also gave some credit to the defensive line.
Guys tackling better, guys who aren't used to tackling the way we tackle, because we're a low tackling team, and early on in the spring they try to tackle high and they miss the tackles, and so I thought the tackling was excellent today. We didn't have a lot of missed tackles.
Tedford will be entering his 3rd year as the head coach in his 2nd run with the Bulldogs. The team finished last year with a 9-4 record overall, beating New Mexico State to capture the New Mexico Bowl. The Dogs now have 123 days left until their opening game against the defending national champion Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor. What are some things you guys want to see as they head up for their biggest test of the year?
Build the trenches. If you look at the Bulldogs' collapse last season, the biggest issue was the offensive and defensive lines. On the defensive side, they were not getting enough pressure. They weren't attacking the quarterback. They solved some of those issues by getting Foreman, a couple other guys on the defensive side, but that's going to be an interesting test. On the offensive side, they got to limit the sacks. They've got to be able to protect Micah Keene or whoever is at quarterback.
And speaking of Keene, I think the biggest thing, especially watching last season just as a fan, you notice you'd come to games as a Bulldog fan and you would just see 2 quarterbacks switching in and out sometimes during games. Very inconsistent play from the QBs. I think we need our guy. We need to get him early before the fall season even gets here so we can just have a leader on the team and more consistent play overall from the QB position.
My question is Keene that guy, or is it redshirt freshman Jaden Mandel?
I think they're going to battle it out, but right now I would take Keene. He's experienced. He has shown the talent. I think he needs a little bit more confidence, and he'll be the guy.
For me, I think Keene is 100% the guy because he's already shown that leadership. I want to see leadership on defense. You talked about the trenches. They also just brought in another USC defensive lineman as well.
DJ.
Yep, they did bring in DJ. But I want to see them have a leader because they need that leadership if they're going to go up head for head, tit for tat with a Big Ten offense, because that's no easy task.
They lost a lot of guys on that defense. You mentioned it. I'd like to see Cam Lockridge step up and be that guy in the secondary.
We'll see. We got a few hundred days to prepare.
Fresno State men's basketball is going to look a lot different next season. Earlier this month, the Bulldogs hired Vance Wahlberg as the next head coach. Wahlberg and his staff already made some moves in the transfer portal. On Thursday, Junior College National Player of the Year Amar Aguiliard committed to Fresno State. Sharpshooter averaged 22.7 points per game on 51.5% shooting from the field and 42.5% shooting from 3 this past season with Triton College in Illinois. Aguillard also averaged 4.5 rebounds and 2.4 assists per game as his team went 34-3 on the season before falling in the national championship. The 6'5" wing will have a chance to carve out a significant role on the Dogs after the team lost all 5 of its starters from a year ago. The 6-game losing streak is over for the baseball team. The Diamond Dogs won 2 of their 3 games against Washington State this weekend. Friday was capped off by a come-from-behind victory thanks to an error Saturday was all Dogs offense with 12 runs on 17 hits to take the series. Fresno State will be back home tomorrow against Cal Poly. First pitch is set for 5 o'clock.
Fresno State water polo secured a fourth consecutive Golden Coast Conference title after a nail-biting win over Loyola Marymount. The Dogs were able to beat the Lions in overtime in Santa Clara yesterday. Before Sunday's match, LMU had beat the Dogs in both games they played earlier this season. This also marked the 100th career win for Coach Natalie Benson. Fresno State now awaits their spot in the Women's Water Polo Championship. The selection show will be held on the NCAA website tonight at 5.
Before we talk about who Fresno State will be going up against, let's talk about the team in general. Joining us is the voice of Fresno State Water Polo and student broadcaster Brian Welch. Brian, thank you for joining us on the show.
You're welcome, Ricky. It's my pleasure.
So let's go ahead and start off because it is now 4 consecutive titles for the team. What's led to this team's consistency?
You see those 4 years of consistency. It's been good players and great coaches as well. It's just been great. It's a great combination, and it's been a great fan base as well with the Red Wave showing up at the Fresno State Aquatic Center.
All right, and then this team, they started off strong in the game, but on Sunday, even despite them having an early lead, they let LMU come back, but luckily they were able to secure it in overtime. What led to the team able to finally close it out there right at the end?
It's the names that we've been talking about all season long on our broadcast, the Mountain West Network. You talk about Brooke Ochoa, Caitlin Howard, Paulina Yasny as a goalkeeper, in my opinion, will probably be on the Mount Rushmore of goalkeepers at Fresno State. Of all that combination and also persevering, because previously, before that matchup against LMU, the Lions owned the Bulldogs in those previous 2 matchups. So able to persevere and get the job done was a very impressive showing for Fresno State when they were able to punch their ticket to Berkeley.
All right, Brian, last question for you, and I need you to finish the sentence for me. For Fresno State to win, they need to do
good defense and timely shooting on the goals. You have to score. You have to play lights out, especially when you're playing against a Cal or a USC, which Fresno State has played twice in the tournament in the previous 2 seasons.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for taking some time away from behind the camera to be able to join us on set today.
You're
really
welcome,
appreciate it.
Thank you, Ricky. That means a lot, my friend.
Coming up, we take a look at how some former players performed at their highest levels.
Also, we go to the track and see how the Dogs did at Warmerdam on Senior Day.
I got the Bulldog spirit up in my head. Up in my head. Up in my head.
I got that Bulldog spirit up in my head. Up in my head to say. I got that Bulldog spirit deep in my heart. Deep in my heart. Deep in my heart. Got that Bulldog spirit deep in my heart. Deep in my heart to stay. I got that Bulldog spirit down in my toes. Down in my toes. Down in my toes. I got that Bulldog spirit down in my toes. Hey. Down in my toes to stay. I got that Bulldog spirit up in my head, deep in my heart, down in my toes. I got that Bulldog spirit all over me to stay. I got that Bulldog spirit
deep in my heart.
Deep in my heart, deep in my heart. I got that Bulldog.
Welcome back to your Focus on Sports. The men's golf team just wrapped up the Mountain West Championship in Oregon. The Dogs tied for 5th as a team, finishing Sunday at 1 over. Senior Matthew Sutherland was going head-to-head with the top players in the Mountain West. He was tied for 3rd at 5 under. Junior Joseph Lloyd tied for 13th after finishing 2 under on Sunday.
Golf wasn't the only team putting in work over the weekend. Track and field also hosted the Fresno State Invitational at Veterans Memorial Stadium. The Bulldogs had 18 top 3 finishes and 5 improvements in the program's record book. It was a weekend of accomplishments for the team, especially as they also held their senior day. Morgan Hutchinson, a junior on the team, says she's happy to see her teammates get recognized for their dedication and hard work.
It's been really awesome to have these seniors around, and they've contributed a lot to the program. So seeing them graduate and just experiencing this through them and seeing them reach this step in their life was really awesome.
The track and field athletes aren't done competing quite yet. Fresno State will host the Mountain West Outdoor Championships in just 2 weeks, May 9th through the 11th at Veterans Memorial Stadium.
Record numbers on and off the stage in the Motor City this weekend with the presentation of the NFL Draft. In front of a record 700,000 people, many college athletes made their first big strides to the NFL by getting drafted by their new teams. In the first round, offense was the tone. The first 14 picks were all offensive players. Notable draft picks also include of Central Valley stars like Xavier Worthy and Jalen McMillan.
Even though we didn't hear their names in the draft, some dogs landed some spots immediately following the draft. Receiver Jalen Gill is getting his chance in LA as he joins the Chargers. On the defensive side of the ball, Maurice Norris Jr. got picked up by the Detroit Lions. Meanwhile, Carlton Johnson will be heading north to Seattle, and LaVelle Bailey will be traveling to Mile High Stadium to join the Denver Broncos. He'll be accompanied by long snapper Nick D'Ambra, who got an invite to Denver. Breaking news from Pittsburgh, Johnny Hudson has received a camp invite to the Steelers.
Also picked up in the free agency were Buchanan grad and national champion Kendall Milton, who's now with the Eagles. So guys, the draft's not over. We saw a lot of fantastic picks, some questionable ones. Who do you guys are people that you think won the draft and also kind of lost in the draft? Jackson, let's start with you.
I'll start for who lost. The Atlanta Falcons. You can't sign Kirk Cousins to that big of a deal and then go draft his replacement in the first round. I think you got to get better right now if you're them. They do have a great defense. Penix, I'm sure, will be a good quarterback, maybe in a couple years, but to me, you've got to win right now. And for the winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got some linemen. They got good trench dogs, I like to call them, players that will do anything for the team to win, and they really needed that. So they are the winners of the draft for me.
I've got to agree with you. That was a questionable pick, drafting Penix. I will say, as someone who watched Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heineke over the past 2 years, it cannot hurt to have a solid backup because this team desperately needs a quarterback. My positive from the draft, you mentioned Xavier Worthy, the Central grad. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I do not know how the rest of the league let this happen. Fastest player in NFL Combine history, going to be catching balls with Patrick Mahomes. That's scary.
That is scary. What's also scary is my big winner, which is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, they needed help in the secondary, and they did just that with the first 2 draft picks, picking up Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. But the biggest sell for me is actually a little part of your top winner. The Bills took the biggest L. They gave the Chiefs the reincarnation of Tyreek Hill with Xavier Worthy. I mean, how in the world do you give them the fastest guy? We already see what they saw with the guy literally named Cheetah. Imagine what they're going to do with Xavier Worthy now.
Yeah, mind-blowing to me.
It's like the rich get richer.
Exactly.
Ormond Diamond Dog Aaron Judge is heating up after a big series in Milwaukee. The Yankee slugger led the charge in his team's 15-win win over the Brewers on Saturday. Judge went 2 for 4 with a walk and 2-run home run in the 6th inning. The power continued on Sunday afternoon. The Bronx Bomber went 3 for 4 with a home run and a walk and 3 runs batted in during the 15-5 victory. The Yankees are now 19-10 on the season. First place in the American League East. The team is in Baltimore this afternoon for the first of a 4-game set with the Oilers.
The Clippers have now evened up the series against the Mavericks. Clippers started hot, having a 55-24 lead before Dallas caught fire in the second half. Former Bulldog Paul George alongside James Harden put up 33 points on Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. George also recorded 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 4 steals. The Clippers will be back in LA for Game 5 on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Lakers managed to hold off the Nuggets on Saturday, halting an 11-game losing streak to the Nuggets. They will look to continue the reverse sweep tonight at 7.
For one more time this semester, let's go ahead and we got to make this quick. Who are our final top dogs of the season? Jackson, start with you.
Mine's not a player. It's a coach. Vance Wahlberg, the new Fresno State basketball coach, just landed the top JUCO athlete in college basketball, Amar Gilliard, 6'5", 225-pound guard, electric to watch, averaged 27 points this past season.
Brooke Ochoa, back-to-back GCC tournament MVP, had 10 goals this weekend, 4 assists. She does it all. Looking forward to watching her in Berkeley in a couple weeks.
For me, I got to go with the guy I talked about, Matthew Sullivan. Remained top 3 throughout the whole entire weekend at a tough course in Oregon. And also, before ending things off, I thought we should give her a quick shout out. Jimena Ramos, our very own here on Fresno State Focus, celebrated her senior day on Saturday.
Good for you, Jimena.
Those are all great top dogs. And that's it for this week's show.
Remember to tune into our regular newscast this Wednesday at 4 to hear about legendary baseball fan Inman Perkins.
Thank you for joining us, and as always, go Dogs.